Hello, hello, hello. It is your girl V, and welcome to Tea Tuesdays. Whew, I hope you've had a wonderful start of your week. If you haven't, it's okay. Hang in there. Hey, we're getting better. It's getting better. Trust me. Don't give up. I just want to say, and just, I always kind of have to go back and do a little, I guess you can say like infomercial. But there is a pop up shop that's happening in Oklahoma City called Shop the Tea. And so if you see this little QR code, it'll show you all the information on there so you can go and support. It is coming up on June 3rd. It is sponsored by yours truly, Share the Tea LLC, getting information out to the people, nonprofit organizations, vendors, you name it. We're getting this out to everyone. And this one is focused on education. So there will be a special guest by Tracy with, I'm about to mess up my words, Tracy with Anna Bean Publishing and JoJo Bean. So they're both going to be there. Also, we're going to have her books and things on staff, so you'll be able to purchase them if you want. But we are giving away 20 books to the children free, absolutely free. So I hope that you're able to come by. So save that date, June 3rd. It's coming up and literally in a week and a half. Can you believe that? It went by really fast. So share this with somebody. But anyway, let's have this discussion. So today we're talking to a wonderful young lady. Are y'all ready for this conversation? Because, last week I told you about the retreat, right? We talked about the retreat and getting ourselves together. And so there's a retreat for behavioral health. Did you know that? Okay. I know you didn't because I learned about it myself. But anyway, let's go ahead and bring her on. Hello, Stephany. How are you?
I'm fantastic. How are you?
Not too bad. Not too bad. Try not to have a hot flash while I'm too excited right now. But
I'm with you.
right. Good luck with that. Right.
Exactly.
Yes, definitely. Well, I want to say thank you for coming on. You are the executive director of Green Shoe Foundation.
Yes.
So I want to say, listen, now a lot of people have not, and I'm saying a lot of people, like I know a lot of people, but I feel there are several people that do not know about Green Shoe Foundation. So I'm just going to give a little bit about what I learned. Is that, if that's okay?
Absolutely. Please, please.
Okay, right. And so just tell you, like, how did you find out? So I found out by Nami. Nami was asking for someone to, I think it was during the Mental Health Awareness Week or something of that nature, and you guys were giving away a basket of different things, right? And so I was just sharing and posting along, going by my business, and I won. I was like,
Uh-huh.
oh, little old me, I won something. So of course I have on my shirt. I don't know if you guys can see my shirt, but you see my shirt? The Green Shoe
Awesome shirt.
Foundation, and there was like different little self-care awareness things. And I said, I need to learn about Green Shoe. So that's how I discovered Green Shoe. So tell me a little bit about, where did this organization come from?
So, Green Shoe, we're a fully funded nonprofit. We
Mhm.
started in 2015. Now, our first retreats, I'll tell you, were in July of 2016. But kind of how
Wow.
we got started. And I want to kind of continue to use the word retreat, but know that this is the retreat that you need, not the one you thought you were going to get. So I think that's
Mm.
one of the biggest things I hear from our participants that come in going, oh, wow. So yeah, I did not know I needed this. We all need to take a week for our mental health. And we tend to not do that. So that's kind of why we call it the retreat, and we want this to be a time that we can take away and really focus on that. But our founder went through a program several years ago, and for him, it was absolutely life changing. And it was based upon the model of Pia Melody. Now, she wrote the book Facing Codependence, which, of course, I've got right here. And it probably was in your basket because this is what
Okay.
we kind of consider to be our Bible. But she basically developed this model that helps us really go back and examine that 0 to 18 time period in our life and how we learned how to do relationships from our caregivers and how that affects our relationships today, but primarily our relationship with self. So that's what
Mm.
this week is focused on. And again, for our founder, for him, not just for him personally, but for his family, it was absolutely transformational. And he wanted this to be something that anybody could access. So that's how Green Shoe got started. And we, in saying that we're a fully funded nonprofit, this is where I find I have so much gratitude, and I feel so grateful for the fact that this is a no cost program for folks to come.
No cost?
No cost. And I can talk about, some of the logistics and all that, later. But yeah, this is absolutely free for people to be able to do this, which you cannot get anywhere that I even know of. And again, we started those groups in July of 2016. And I'll tell you, since this past Friday, we've had 408 groups come through.
Wow.
1,925 folks have completed the retreat. And so clearly I know I'm a numbers geek, so I love those, but I share those every Monday with the folks that come in because I want that to be an encouraging number. Because not only is that 1,925 folks that have gone through this program, but that there's that ripple effect. This is something that they now have been able to share with their family, their friends, their partners. And it affects not just their life, but other people's lives as they're able to really find their truly authentic self. I do think the biggest question I get though is why the name Green Shoe,
I was,
and
I was gonna ask that. Well, I know the color, why the color,
right. But
but why the
don't
name?
have to really think about, and again, I hope we really think about it during the month of May, but green is the color for mental health awareness. And
Hmm.
so as we were kind of researching some stories about green and mental health, came across one of an NFL football player that during the month of October, instead of doing pink out and wearing the pink cleats and sweatbands one Sunday, it's World Mental Health Day in October was on this Sunday, and he wore green cleats to honor World Mental Health Day and to kind of be a spokesperson, especially for his personal struggles with different mental illness types of things. Actually got in trouble. The NFL was not going to let him on the field. And if you think about what the NFL deals with today, I'm thinking a pair of green cleats is something pretty awesome.
What,
Um,
wait, okay, slow down.
yeah.
So. You mean to tell me they wouldn't let him on the field?
Nope, we're not going to let him play. He got to play, but they said, well, we're going to fine you. And so here's what he said. And if you ever heard him talk to, it's kind of his personality. He said, well, that's fine. You can fine me, but I want you to double the fine. And it has to go towards a nonprofit of my choosing for mental health. So it's
Oh,
kind of a cool
wow.
story, just really
I like
about speaking out and really trying to break the stigma of being
it.
able to talk about mental illness and the fact that we all have to focus on our mental health and what that means. And so that was kind of a cool story. And then there's our third little caveat. So, and this is going to reach a little bit beyond some of my financial knowledge, but when you buy and sell stocks, there's a term called green shoe, and that was like established many, many years ago when a Stride Right actually set up their public trading. And so if you know anything about some of our original funding, green shoe just kind of kept coming up. And so that's who we are. And I love shoes. If you know me, that's kind of something that I do, but I would love for us to always
Who
be thinking,
doesn't? Who doesn't love shoes?
oh yeah. And you want to tell me I get to wear green shoes all the time? Yes.
Right.
But I want us to be putting on our green shoes and walking in our mental health. That's kind of something that I always want to kind of encourage. It needs to be something we're always focused on as we're just going through our day. It doesn't need to be something that only happens in crisis because
Mm,
again, mental health is for everyone.
that's true. That
You
is
know,
true. Mental health is for everyone, and mental health definitely affects everyone, whether
absolutely.
you believe it or not. Um,
Absolutely.
wow. Oh my goodness. Well, I'm happy that he used that and just kind of change it around to where it benefits. So even though you're fined and you're having to pay somebody, you end up receiving funds. So I like that. So
Yeah.
2016. So it's
Mhm.
been quite a few years. Quite a few years. And did it originate in Oklahoma?
Yes, it originated in Oklahoma. We have been in Edmond since the start. The
Okay.
exciting thing is we will no longer be in Edmond as of a couple weeks. We have built a brand new retreat center out in Guthrie, just up 74. So it's like,
Okay.
15 minutes from the city. But this is about 415 acres that we are now going to be able to
Um,
host these retreats and have just a bigger facility for me to offer more groups for more participants, but also
mhm,
have this amazing outdoor space and more indoor type of space for meditation, for debriefing, for some of the therapeutic components that we use in this model. So I am just ecstatic. Now, I'm in kind of construction nightmare. Let's be very clear if we're going to be very honest
okay.
and transparent with where we are today. But that's usually what it is in that last push to try to kind of get things finished up and get those keys in hand. So yeah, we'll be
Oh,
making that
yeah.
transition out this summer out there.
Well, congratulations.
Thank you.
Congratulations. That's when you said 415 acres?
Yes, a whole lot more than I need, but it's
Ooh,
just beautiful.
right.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, definitely, definitely. I know it's going to be beautiful, especially when you guys are on a mission and you're focused on things that's impact driven,
Yeah.
and giving back to the community. That definitely makes a big difference. It really does. So the change will happen. You said late July.
Yes, we'll make the official. I think our first July groups will be out there at the new facility.
Okay.
And so we'll
Okay.
be kind of over the month of June, moving things, getting transitioned while we still operate our groups here in Edmond. And then we'll shift over and have those July groups start out at the new
Okay.
retreat center.
Now, one thing I heard you say earlier, you said a week
Mhm.
retreat. So this is
Yes.
not just 2, 3 days, not just a weekend,
No.
but
So
the
it's
whole
5
summer.
days. So think of Monday through Friday, 8:30 to 5. But basically, you're with me all day for 5 days straight. So it's like 40 hours of intensive therapy.
Mm,
You can't get that in a year of doing individual therapy. So it is very intense and deep work. It's not your typical talk therapy and what kind of people think about. So there's a lot of experiential techniques that are used throughout the week. Monday is our psychoeducation day. We basically teach you this model. And so there's 5 core issues that Pia talks about. We have our self-esteem, our boundaries, our reality, dependency, which is how we get our needs and wants met, and then our moderation. So how do I take all of this and live in balance? And so we want to help everyone identify kind of where we fall within these
okay.
5 core issues.
Okay. Hold
Yeah,
on.
I'm throwing stuff at you, aren't I?
I was like, let me write this down real quick. Okay. Do those five again.
Yeah, so self-esteem, which is,
Self-esteem.
I think for me personally, was one of the most powerful things about this model. It's so
Mm-hmm.
funny. I have a background in counseling. I was a licensed therapist for 20 some odd years in Texas before we moved up here. And my view and scope of what codependence was about this big. I thought I knew. And after reading this and learning about, oh, you mean because I'm a people pleasing perfectionist, that means I'm codependent because
Mm.
I won't ask for help because I can do everything else. That scale of anti-dependent, guess what? That's codependent.
Oh
So
wow.
I know. The biggest thing is with self-esteem, learning that I am 100% worthy just because.
Mm.
I mean,
I
think
like
about
that.
it. When a little baby is born, does that baby have to do anything to get your love? Or do they have to do anything to earn worthiness?
Hmm. No.
No, they're perfectly 100% worthy. And nothing ever changes that. Not anything we do, not anything that happens to us ever changes our self worth. Now, we do take events and we do take things and we internalize that and then we feel less than.
Mm-hmm.
Or the other side is we're better than, we're one up.
Right.
And
Right.
so, that's that scale. So learning that, nope, I get to be right here. I am 100% worthy. That is how I was made. Nothing changes that. I think that to me is instantly, I see on Monday, sometimes one of the most powerful concepts for folks because they want to argue with you about it. Well, wait. No, hang on. No, I'm just telling you.
Not arguing,
No
just
argument.
accept it.
Yeah, you are worthy. And getting them to say that over and over, affirmations. I am worthy. Am an invaluable human. I make mistakes. I'm still worthy.
You're still worthy.
Still, yeah, absolutely. And so that is such one of those most powerful things with self-esteem. The second one with boundaries, um, we have those of us that have no boundaries, the boundaryless. And most of the time, those folks are kind of pretty easy to identify. That's my aunt that loves to run up and grab everybody and hug them and just be loud and boisterous and doesn't care what's going on in the room.
Right.
That's yeah, nope, no boundary there. The other side of that is the one that puts up the wall. So when I put the wall up, that boundary, it's not just I'm setting a boundary with you, it's a wall. Then
Mm-hmm.
I can't build relationships with people. So it's trying to figure out, how do I set appropriate boundaries in my life, with myself, with others, because I want to both contain myself. I don't want to be offensive. And I
Right.
still want to protect myself. So how do I find that
How
with
do
boundaries?
and when they do put up the wall, like how do you start to trust, build that trust that if I put this wall down, this person is not going to hurt me. Or even if I take a piece of the wall down, this person's not going to help me. How do you, I'm quite sure you talk about trusting someone when you're setting boundaries. Yeah.
Well, and it's not about, I mean, and of course, trusting people is part of that relationship building. But when I
Mm-hmm.
take that wall down, I take it down because I can now use tools to set boundaries. One of the biggest things we teach everybody, and it's going to sound a little weird, but it's called the talking and listening boundary. And it's a communication system that we use, but it's a way that you can, one, talk to be heard, and for people to hear who you are. It's also a way at the same time for you to listen
Mm.
to other people.
Mm-hmm.
And in doing this, I am setting boundaries in my relationships. You can think of it in, as a parent, we have to say no, right? That's a boundary. Nope, you
Yeah.
can't put your hand on a hot stove. Nope, you can't run out in the middle of the street. The those make sense to us, but I can also, by letting you know who I am and sharing that, you learn where my boundaries are. But it's also important, so I'm not offensive, as I need to listen to who you are.
Mm.
And so the talking listening boundary is something like, okay, Miss V, when I heard you say da 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 da, what I made up about that is this. What came up for me was remembering a time that my mom did that. And
Mm.
the third component to all of that, so when I heard you say, here's what I made up about it. But the third component that we tend to miss a lot is, here's how I feel.
Right.
Never like to tag on that emotion, because again, and I think that's what that's where that wall is. I'm going to put that wall up because I think I need to protect my emotions. And guess what? I may have needed those walls when I was little. I may have needed those protection walls, which means they're not bad. I absolutely needed those. But now, as the adult, I get to protect that inner kiddo, and I don't need that wall. But like you said, I need to know, then what do I do? So I need to
Right.
know how to set boundaries. So how can I communicate what my thoughts are and my emotions?
Mm. I
And
like that.
so many
And
times. Oh, go
and
ahead.
and give, well, I was just gonna say, and giving them the tools, because sometimes you don't know exactly how to respond or what to do.
Right. So
So
our
that's good.
whole week, even though, this is done in a small group setting, so there's usually like 5 members in each group plus one of our therapists. And during the week, you will do individual work with that group. So while, let's say, you're telling your story, I'm participating by listening. And
Mm-hmm.
so at the end, we share feedback. And so we practice this talking and listening boundary. So this is something that we practice. It takes like a whole week to practice it, to even kind of get the concept of, okay, this is how I can use this. Uh,
Right.
and it's funny, I personally used it at home. I mean, hoping my husband's not listening to this, even though I told him, hey, I'm going on at 5, so he may be. So anyway, he knows though when I say, so when I hear you say this, versus me just reacting or walking away or yelling at him. But it's great when I say, when I hear you say this, here's what comes up for me, and here's how I feel about it.
Yeah.
Biggest thing, it eliminates assumptions because I'm able to share my perception and share whatever I'm making up about that versus just making an assumption and acting on it.
Mm, that's true.
You
And
know?
and it's a powerful communication tool
Mhm.
instead of us
Absolutely.
just reacting. So husband, don't feel bad because I do the same to my husband.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and then he turns around and does it with me. So it's fantastic though, because it really has it's eliminated a lot of probably fights,
Yes.
or silent nights, should I say, between
Right. The
yeah.
silent treatment we all
We
try to
both yeah,
give.
because think about it, really the silent treatment's a wall. That's when the
Hmm.
wall goes up. And so yeah, it kind of helps eliminate some of that because I'm able to share that. And then those of us that either don't know how to set boundaries, that's what this does. It gives us those tools for us to speak up for ourselves, for us to learn how to gain our voice. So many times people think about, well, I have to be loud and obnoxious to gain my voice. No, you really don't.
No, 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 no. Why do
You
you feel like you
can
have to do that?
exactly, but it lets you share your reality.
Mm,
One of the pieces to this that I think has really been effective, especially in the climate over the last couple of years, is the thing is with this when I share my reality with you and you share your reality with me, our realities do not have to match.
that's true.
We do not have to agree.
We can agree to disagree.
Well, and it's the part about I'm listening. My job in listening, my only job in listening is to listen to be curious. And
I
I
like
really
it.
I really
Listen to be curious.
listen to be curious. I'm not listening to change your mind. I'm not listening to change my mind. I'm not listening to come up with the next argument. I'm just listening to be curious.
Hmm.
Then if I ask questions, it's really because I'm asking them out of that curiosity to learn more.
To learn more. I like
And
it.
again, with the premise of we don't have to agree, but I do want to know what your reality is on this, or I want to know why you believe that.
Do you feel like it's hard for people to accept someone's reality, especially if they feel that it's wrong or it doesn't seem part of the norm?
Mhm. Well, that's when our judgmental side, or
Hmm.
part, we have all these parts. I think sometimes our judgmental part wants to jump in. And
Right.
so that's why, and by the way, being judgmental and having all that responsibility, that can weigh on you. That can really take a lot out of you. So by asking that part to step back, and like I said, just listen to be curious, then it's not
Mm,
my job. It's not my job to change your mind. I am not responsible for you. And if you're a people pleaser like I am, you have no idea that weight that came off of me realizing your feelings are not my responsibility.
mm.
Even if you're mad at me, I am not responsible. I can
I
care, but it's
right.
not on me to fix that.
What people pleasers? What what's what purpose does it serve us to always please someone else?
Lots of different things. That's a great question. Sometimes if I can focus on others and make them happy, I don't have to stop and think about what's really going on with me.
Mm.
The
Mm-mm.
focus isn't on me. If I didn't get my needs met when I was little by taking care of other people's needs, then I'm taking care of that little girl versus stopping and thinking, what does that little Stephany actually need?
Mm.
You know? So it can be it's a great distraction, you know, for us.
Definitely.
And again, and let's be clear, it feels good. My husband used to joke, oh, everybody likes Stephany. I can walk in a room and make everybody laugh. But I may not be truly happy in the moment. And so, that putting that fake face on and not being authentic,
Right.
again, at some point, you're going to reach your breaking point. And
That's
we've
true.
all done that. We've all, and you do it in private because again, you can't do it out in public. So versus being out there saying, you know what, I'm exhausted today. Today was rough,
What
and not having it that way.
they always say that if you continue to pour your energy into someone else,
Mhm.
when do you start to pour into you? Because
Right.
you're going to run out. It's going to be an empty pitcher or empty cup.
And then we tend to get resentful of those that we're close with, that they're not pouring back into us the way that we poured into them.
Right.
That's not fair.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's not fair. And everyone's not going to treat you the same way that you treat others.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct.
Huh. I love this. So
And that was only
life.
number two, by the way. So
I know that's only number two. Woo. And just imagine. I mean, there's a total of five,
right.
and you
So,
have.
and again, with with our reality, that's how we experience everything going on. One of the memes that we use in our education day, and I know everybody has seen that, the little picture of the dog with his sitting there at the table and the house is on fire,
Mm-hmm.
and he's just sitting there, and the caption is, "It's fine."
Yeah.
Yeah. And for a lot of us, that is what life was like growing up. The house was
Mm-hmm.
chaotic, things are in chaos, but we thought that was the norm. It's fine.
That's true. Yeah.
Yeah. And the funniest thing about that meme, we have people think that the dog's upset because the coffee cup is too far away in that picture. And I never thought about that till someone said that. And they go, "Oh, I didn't even see the fire."
Oh wow.
Right. And I was like,
Need to go
"Oh,
back. I need to
yeah,
go back and look at it now.
right." And so, but to be honest, that moment when then we paused and said, "What does that say to you when you don't see the fire?" They were like, "Oh,"
Mhm.
you know, with that. So then we look at that. We look at our reality, how we learned our reality, when we do that, how we do that today. Um, and then dependency, that fourth piece, that's how we get our needs and wants met. And how did we get them met as a kiddo? And then how do we get them met today? And one of the biggest things is with our needs. Do you know that we have 11 basic needs? Not three, 11.
11.
11. Everything obviously from, our emotional, our physical needs. But, we need medical care, dental care, sexual information. All of that are part of our basic needs that if we didn't get those growing up, we got them somehow. Either we missed them or we had to figure it out on our own. And so
Mm-hmm.
how do we do that today as adults? And so looking at that, do we ask for what we need? Or are we, either we got in trouble if we asked, or we didn't get it if we asked. So for some of us, we don't even ask for what we need. And on the other hand, what about our wants? It's okay to want things, because guess what? That's how we get our joy,
Joy. Yeah.
you
That's
know? So now, if I want a trip to Europe, sure, that's going to bring me a lot of joy. I may not get that right now, but it's
right.
okay that I want that. I don't need to shame myself or be shamed for wanting something.
So has there ever been a time or group
Mhm.
where you're going through these and you may end up spending more time on the reality of the boundary part?
Mhm.
Does it ever feel like you have to, like that's a big component and you have to take more time than what you had originally planned for?
There is, but because the education part is just, here's what it's about, but the whole week we're rotating back into all of that.
Oh,
So there's so much time, for that looping, for reteaching, for going back to it, and where do you fit into that? Now, do we have groups that sometimes like, yeah, we've got to spend more time, on
okay.
the boundaries throughout the week? Sure, absolutely. The same thing with us, and all of us, the team here. We try to live the model, and there's weeks where I'm like, ooh, I'm really, we need to
It's a
get
struggle this week.
back on those emotional boundaries, or whatever that is for me. That it's constantly with that work. So absolutely. Because
Hmm.
that last one is about moderation. How do I take all of this? There's not one core issue that is more important. You can see how they all kind of flow in between.
Yes.
But my goal in all of this is I want to be a functional adult.
I
So
like
here's
that.
my trick question. What percentage do you think Pia says I need to be a functional adult? What would you think is the appropriate percentage?
Mm, at least 75,
Sure.
maybe
It's 50,
80.
it's 59.
59.
Yeah. She says we need to at least be a functional adult 59% of the time, and we're doing good. Well, I made the same face that you just made because for
Okay.
me, growing up, a 59 was an F.
Oh,
I have
okay.
failed, you know?
Hi. I was
And
thinking that.
so, but that's where that grace component comes into because, sometimes we have the different, what we call ego states, where I'm in my adapted part or my
Hmm.
wounded. And so the functional sits in between. And there's going to be times that I flip into my adapted, that's the 17-year-old Stephany that was trying to really get her independence and figure things out. And she comes out,
Right.
and quite a bit. And so knowing though that I'm allowed to make mistakes, there's that grace component
Mm.
that, to be functional.
Give
But
me
it
some
helps
grace.
because a lot of times, here's the biggest thing is I now know when I'm jumping into my adapted. I know when I'm in that. Where before I never had that awareness.
But it's good to develop that insight so that
Mhm.
way you can respond and look at it a little bit differently. I like
Absolutely.
that. So with the 59%, does it explain that not to necessarily look at the number itself, but to look at it from the value of what you're getting instead of the percentage? Like we're looking at, well, that's an F,
Right. And
because
that's what she's trying to say is it's not about a grade. It's not about a good or bad. And it's about the grace.
mm,
And so whether it's a 59, 62, whatever that is, and I think she chose 59 on purpose because of the F. We all jump into as kiddos, well, that's an F, I failed.
right.
And so it's about the fact that we don't have to be perfect.
Mm,
So,
I
and
like
we had the saying that we got from her of I'm perfectly imperfect.
oh, so that's where that came from.
Absolutely.
Perfectly imperfect, because I do like that. Because at times, I've run into a lot of people that feel if they don't get things right,
Mhm.
if it's not done a certain way, or it's not up to par, or somebody didn't like it, it makes them feel like they just failed.
Right.
Like they're just not even, they don't even know where to start. They don't even know where to pick up or, what to do. And it really bothers their core. Like, yeah. So I like
Making
that.
that
Perfectly
making that
imperfect.
mistake, in which the making that mistake affects their self-esteem
Yes.
versus the fact it was just a mistake. We all
Hmm.
make them,
Hmm.
but you're right. And that's the way I was. And that's the way my oldest kiddo is. That's who I raised. I raised him to be just like me. I wish I knew all this when my kiddos were little. Uh, but yeah, he makes a mistake and it crashes him.
Hmm.
And sometimes even those we joke about basic life problems like a flat tire collapses him. I don't know how,
Oh my
even
goodness.
though he knows intellectually, he knows how to change a flat tire. He could
Right.
write probably a 12-page dissertation on it. But the actual in the moment, crisis moment, I have a flat tire.
Hmm. Because we do start to think about all the other things that come into play after that.
Right.
You know, the cost
Right.
and
Right.
inconvenience and all of
Right. I've
that.
got to get a new tire, and how I don't have where's the money coming from, and how am I going to figure out when I've got to go take it to the tire shop, and blah, 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 yeah, everything just kind of snowballs.
Right. Right. So I enjoy just hearing I mean, this is just the basic,
Hmm.
guys. I mean, she's only giving you even not even the tip of the iceberg, but can you see the space in
Yes,
between how much she gives you?
it's like the cliff notes of the cliff notes. Yeah.
Yes, yes, there we go. That's the word I'm looking for. So on your flyer, because I did pick this up from you over the weekend. And just to shout them out because they are a sponsor and a supporter of NAMI. So
Yes.
just kind of want to throw that out there. The NAMI walk was this past weekend, but one of the things that it says here is to be your best you.
Yes.
Be your best you. Gain
Yeah.
gain life-changing insight and tools which will impact your daily life, workplace, and family. Become a better parent, set healthier boundaries, demonstrate emotional wellness, and freedom to embody your authentic self.
Yes.
Who doesn't want to be a better person? I mean,
Right. And you'll hear us use that word authentic a lot because I don't know
Mhm.
that we really stop and think about who do we want to be,
Right.
you know, not what society's
Somebody
telling
else.
us or family or friends or whatever. Who do I want to be?
Mhm.
Um, and you really have to stop and think about that because sometimes the answer is I don't know, which is
Ah,
totally okay, you know? And actually, if you're saying I don't know, that's actually a good place to be in because now let's figure it out
let's figure it out. Yeah.
with
And
them.
that, have you ever encountered someone that felt like they had to be someone else
Mhm.
because that's what their loved one, family, or spouse, partner wanted them to be?
I think we see that a lot or hear that a lot from people who say they're either they're living for somebody else or
Mhm.
they have to be they have to be somebody else because that's what they were told growing up that you have this is who you
Ah,
have to be. If you think about it, all of these messages and everything really does go back to our childhood experiences.
yes, it does.
And yes, I'm talking about some significant trauma. I'm also talking about just the messages we got as kiddos growing up. So we don't rate big or little trauma. Yes, there's emotional, physical, sexual, spiritual abuse. And some people have been through some really, really horrific things. Um, but everybody's story is theirs, and we want to honor that. But
Mm,
sometimes it's just those messages we got as a kiddo that we never really think about, but they just kind of embed in
yeah,
us.
they do.
And
Hmm.
and with that, we again, when I heard my parents say that, what I made up about that was I had to be this type of person. And how I feel now is I'm sad. I have some pain about that.
Hmm.
And
Mm.
so getting folks to connect with that. Now, sometimes, believe it or not, those folks are some of our hardest ones to work with. If you're familiar with the ACE score, which is something that we look at, those of us that are zeros, our trauma doesn't fit on those 10 questions sometimes because we don't have the awareness,
Mm.
you know?
That awareness is a key part.
It really is. And this is the other piece that's really, really hard for people because again, we're looking at our relationship with our caregivers, which for most of us was our parents. And they want to go, but my parents were great or are great. I'm still in a great relationship with them. We are not about blaming. I am not wanting to talk about the intent of our caregivers, but there was an impact.
Hmm.
And so I think that helps eliminate that minimizing or wanting to make excuses. Well, my parents didn't know any better. Well, of course they didn't know any better. I get that.
Right.
But that doesn't mean there wasn't an impact.
And
And
just being able to understand what that impact did to you
exactly,
mentally.
exactly. And also let's also kind of acknowledge the fact of their parenting, the way that they were parented and the way that they were parented. We've got generational cycles that
Yes.
go back. And if we get into that blame game, oh my gosh, we're going to have ourselves so tied up in knots. It's not even going to make sense.
Makes sense. Yeah. And that causes more stress.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And so we want to look at the impact and that way you can still be in a relationship with people you care about. Um, but how we learn that as kiddos does impact how we do sometimes our significant relationships. Day, you mentioned like if a partner is telling me this is who I need to be. Well, if we're
Hmm.
real apt to kind of be that person that maybe because that's what we were taught as kiddos. You know,
Definitely. Yeah.
I love the analogy or the movie Runaway Bride when the character Julia Roberts' character always her favorite breakfast or eggs was whatever fiance she had. And someone finally asked her, well, what type of egg how do you like your eggs? Do you want them scrambled? She goes, well, I don't know.
Mm.
And that's the thing is how ask yourself, how do you take your eggs?
And you would think it's a simple, easy question,
Mhm.
but it's really a lot more complicated
Yeah.
than it seems. Yeah. Ah. Oh, Lordy. Okay. So, Green Shoe Foundation. I look. You guys are doing a wonderful job. A wonderful job because it takes a it takes a lot for one to want to work in this capacity, want
Mm-hmm.
to be able to help other people,
Mm-hmm.
and just to help them with changing their mindset about things that's going on and
Yeah.
to get away. Now, with it being a retreat, they stay at your place or wherever for 5 days, or is it more of a they stay there for 8 hours and then go home or and come back, or how does that necessarily work?
Yeah, it is just a day program. So you go home
Okay.
at 5. Now, part of the program is before you leave, we ask everybody, we have a self-care plan for the night. Now we have a lot of folks that now come in from all over the country. And so
Wow.
some people are staying in a hotel, which and even we'll have people locally, and I'll be honest, especially moms that will choose to stay in a hotel because that way they are able to go home. Because again, can be some very cathartic type of work that you
Hmm.
have to process. And so there definitely needs to be that after time that you're able, we don't give homework, we don't do any of that except for what are you doing tonight to take care of yourself.
Yes.
And encouraging, stepping out and taking a walk, taking a bath, some quiet time to do that. And even on Friday, when we're all said and done, it's now, okay, what's next? How do you take care of yourself? Because this is not the end all be all. Whoops, I checked it off. Um,
Right.
you know,
Right.
for some people, it's even 6 months later, they're still going, oh, wait, that's what that meant, or kind of recognize things will come up and they acknowledge it and recognizing it. So this is just a way that you kind of get to now, how do I transition this into my lifestyle?
Hmm. Okay. I like that. And thank you for explaining that it's not just where you come and spend the night, or because at times when people hear the word retreat, they're thinking, I'm going away, I'll be away for a vacation, you won't hear from me, I'm turning off my cell phone, don't bother me. Has it ever been an issue to where someone does go home and then they come back and they feel like more tense because maybe there were some things that were discussed the day
Hmm.
before and they just wasn't able to do that self-care for the night?
Oh, absolutely.
Oh,
Um, what I have not have had happen, which I have to say, I give so much credit to our participants. I've never had someone not show up the next morning.
okay.
you
Well,
know,
that's good.
No, and that is part of it. And again, that's part of why, we do the first thing we do in the morning is check in. How did the night go? And sometimes they can be more elevated because again, now you've processed it and you've thought about it. And so and
Mm.
it's not a thing of where you just say, oh, I'm an 8. And we're like, okay, great. We're going to move on. I mean, no, we've got to process that and talk about that. To kind of see, and the goal is to kind of help people then. So how can what different plan do we need to make tonight?
Mm,
For
okay.
that. And some of it is with this type of cathartic work, the catharticism, the releasing it, there is a physical release. And so that is where you're going to get some of that relief because, there's so much that we store in our body. And
Yeah.
so that's why we have to do some of this type of work to be able to physically get it out. Some of our techniques actually involve taking a tissue box, putting it to my chest, and pulling out my shame, physically
Um,
pulling out the Kleenexes and my shame and that physical release um, versus just talking about it.
just talking about it. Wow. Wow. So I use this analogy with some of my clients, just because I hope that it helps them to visually see
Hmm.
what is causing the issue. But I talk about the power of weight
Hmm.
and how we carry on all of our burdens and our trauma and our past and our mistakes and whatever failures that you feel like you have. And I said, just imagine if each one of them weighed about 2 pounds or maybe 1 pound, right? And each one of them, you just putting it into a backpack and you put it on your back. It's always on your back because it's part of you. And I said, just imagine you carrying that around all the time. Do you think that that backpack is heavy? Is heavy? Yes, it's
Hmm.
very heavy. And they tend to realize that, oh, I need to release some of this.
Yeah.
So what's stopping you from letting things go? Why am I still holding on to things from back in 1952 or
Yeah.
2 weeks ago, that's bothering me. And that is something that I find is an eye opener for everyone. Like, how am I able to just let it go to where I'm not picking up that burden
Right.
any any longer?
And sometimes just giving them that visualization is so powerful.
Yes.
Um, I love that. One of our therapists, Steve, which, like you said, I have such an amazing team. I can't even say enough about them. But he talks about the emotional pack mule, and how sometimes it's not just one backpack we realize, but we've got three
Mm,
that we put on that we didn't know. And then the other question I would have is how much of those little 1 pound are not is not mine? How much have I taken on other people's shame,
yeah.
other people's stuff, and I've put it into my backpack.
Hmm. Carrying someone else's load.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Oh,
Because if
that's
you really
good.
look at it, my guess is a lot of that is not yours
Hmm.
that you're carrying, you know?
So I know that you mentioned that the retreat doesn't cost
Yes.
anything.
But
So is there a like does the person have to have insurance or?
no, and here's how this works. So, if someone is interested in a retreat, they just need to call us. We have everybody go through a phone assessment with one of our
Okay.
therapists, and it takes about an hour. It's a pretty extensive kind of assessment looking about current situations, past history. It also is a great opportunity to learn more about the program and your story in particular and kind of your goals. Once you schedule, and we do groups every week unless it's the week of a holiday. So, like next week is a Memorial Day, we get a week off. Well, not a week off from groups, but
Right.
but once you schedule, we do have a $475 deposit that you put down to hold your spot. It is just an accountability. I need you to show up on Monday. And
Hmm.
that deposit is returned in full on Friday when you complete the program. And so there's no insurance, there's no cost, there's no any additional programmatic cost.
Wow.
I'll also tell you, we have such an amazing alumni group that many of them have set up sponsorships for folks that if that deposit is an issue, I never want that to hold someone back from coming through a retreat. And so we
Wow.
do have sponsorships for folks that can come through. So again, it is not meant to be about that, but just for them to be able to come through and do their work.
Oh, I love that.
Mhm.
I love that. So don't think about the deposit of making it deter you from what
Yep.
you need to do. And they already said that they have people that come from all across
Mhm.
the country. So it's not just Oklahoma. So if you're in wherever, you can come to Green Shoe Foundation in Edmond, soon to be Guthrie location, and have a wonderful time and just feel renewed. So I'm hoping that someone would definitely take this resource and pass this on to someone else. I do have another question. Is there a certain age limit?
Oh, yes. Good question. It's 21 and older.
Okay.
And the reason for the 21, because we look at that 0 to 18 time period, we do need a couple years outside of that to be able
Mhm.
to look. And there is not a too old. I've had some people say, "Oh, I'm just too old to come through." No, you're not. No, you're not. One of my most favorite participants in the whole wide world, she was 85 years old, and she told me, if I'm here on this planet 2 more minutes or 20 more years, I want to be a different person.
Oh, I love that.
And so, and again, she is still in my heart. She was absolutely amazing coming through.
Oh, well, that's good. That's good. I enjoy that. I enjoy that. And thank you for all of this valuable information. One more question. I know I keep saying one more.
No, keep going.
Now, when you have a group, do you stop accepting for the week? Like, do you try to have no more than 10 people or 20 people, or how does that work?
A lot of that has just been limited. Right now we're running between 2 to 3 groups a week. We kind of alternate,
Okay.
and that's because of the space that we are in, and some of that is also because coming out of COVID, we've also realized we need a little bit more space
Hmm.
than we had before. And so that when we get out to Guthrie, we will have 6 group rooms, so I'll be able to run 6 groups a
Okay.
week. Now I need the therapist. I'm telling you right now. So we are definitely hiring and recruiting for those special, awesome people who really want to do this type of trauma work.
Oh, no.
With
Okay.
that. So yeah, we are expanding and growing, but that is in order to be able to offer more groups for folks.
Definitely. Okay, therapist, you heard that. So if you know the qualifications in order to be a therapist, so if you want to look, go ahead and go to their website. And speaking of that, what is your website?
It is greenshoe.org. And it has fantastic information, just details. It goes a little bit more even into some of the daily schedule. So if you want to know more about the actual model, kind
Okay.
of what to expect, really dive into the retreat page and all of that. There's more information in there.
And are you on social media?
We are on social media, so you can find us on Facebook, Instagram. If you want to look at too on Instagram, Hopeful Holt. That is my amazing Rebecca Holt therapist. She's kind of our Instagram person, and you will definitely get to meet one of our mascots, the beautiful German Shepherd Tanya Tucker, who
Oh,
graces her Instagram page. So um,
Tanya Tucker.
Tanya Tucker, and Tanya has a new little sister named Pearl. So that
Oh,
has started to kind of pop up as well. So yeah, no, Rebecca Holt at Hopeful Holt. That's kind of hard for me to say. Instagram, definitely look at her. She's got some great inspirational messages talking about practical things you can do with mental health practices.
oh, okay. There's another resource. Now, Tanya Tucker, did you say Great Dane?
She's a German Shepherd.
German Shepherd.
Yes.
Okay, well, that's still big. So,
She
maybe,
is big,
maybe,
and she is big at heart, and she is just the sweetest thing you will ever
oh,
ever meet. Yes.
how old is she?
I believe she's probably 6. So she's about 6
Okay,
years old. So she's
okay.
a rescue for Rebecca and her family. But yeah, she definitely has all of our heart as well as whenever we can get her up here.
Oh, wow. That's wonderful. I love dogs. I love dogs. Okay. All right. So we've gotten quite a few resources. You know where to follow. Go to their website at greenshoe.org. Follow them on Facebook. They're on all the social medias: Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, and
Yep.
LinkedIn. Just
Yep.
find them. Go and support. Even if you know someone that may benefit from this retreat. You may know someone that's going through something right now, and they're not for sure what to do. And so you may need to give them a call and just say, hey, check out Green Shoe Foundation and see if they can help you. It's a start, right?
Mhm.
It's a start. So it's really imperative that we help each other throughout this journey of life, right? And not to always feel like we're alone and we're by ourselves. Because one thing I always say, we are more than enough. Those are like my favorite 3 words: more than enough. So always remember that. And Stephany, thank you so much.
Oh,
Thank
thank you. No, I absolutely love this coming on and just chatting with you. This was fantastic.
Oh,
So
thank you. Thank you. And I appreciate you coming on Share the Tea Tuesdays. I know I was a bugaboo just a little bit, but I
I'm glad you were. No, I am so glad you were. I have so much gratitude for you
oh
and,
thank
and your light that you give. So thank you.
well, thank you. And I did notice when I was scrolling through Green Shoe Foundation that you had a birthday
I did. Yes. April.
and April,
Hmm.
like 14th or something.
Yes. Look at you.
Like, and so that means you're an Aries?
I am an Aries. Yeah. I'm sure you picked up
Oh,
on that.
yes. So my birthday is March 24th. So, Team Aries. Hey,
Yes,
I had to throw that out
absolutely.
there. That's why our spirits and our we have that fire sign. We're go-getters,
Uh-huh.
Yes. I had to
Absolutely.
throw that in there. I know they're like, she's like, well, how did she just change the subject? Well, it's just because I had to give her flowers now, if that's
There you
okay.
go. And you
Yeah.
can. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you. Well, Stephany, thank you again. Thank you again for coming on Strategy Tuesdays. Continue to always be an impact for the community. Always speak your voice as always. And I do appreciate you coming on here. And if anyone ever feels like they need some resource, I always ask you to reach out and talk to someone. Don't feel like you're alone, because you will be surprised. There are more resources out here then you know. We just have to search for them sometimes. So, once again, thank you. Don't forget to be intentional, be insightful, be impactful in everything that you do. And until next week, we're going to have another segment because it's still, you know, Mental Health Awareness Month for May. All right, so Stephany, thank you again for coming on, and I will give you what I'm going to end 5 minutes early, so I'm giving you 5 minutes back. Okay,
Perfect.
is that all right? Okay. All right, everyone, you guys have a good night and stay blessed, and we'll until I see you next week. Thank you. Bye bye.